Absolutely, mate. It was a really great year for so many reasons. And obviously, we're going to cap it off this weekend. Motocross the Nations. You're going to be there, aren't you, mate? It's pretty exciting. Obviously, there's just such a stacked class. There's been a couple of injuries that have switched things up, but it's going to be so fascinating just to be there for your perspective to see it all. Obviously, Prado's last race essentially before he goes to Supercross with the Kawasaki, if all reports are to be believed, mate. Awesome to see that. And obviously, that MXGP class, we'll just touch on that. You look at the list, obviously, Jet Lawrence, Hurlings, Fevra, Tomac, Roxon, Geyser, Prado, obviously, Siwa, Hawgmo, Gifting, Searle, obviously probably not where he wants to be on the riding the 250 all year, but just the star powers, just a massive amount of heavy hitters there, mate. So you just been for a treat watching it alone, won't it?
Well, I'm always excited to see everyone there. Of course, my job at Motocross of Nation is to take care of the Blue Crew. I have about 120 riders, to take care of. So that's going to be a busy weekend for me. Traveling on Thursday and getting everything set up on Friday. But I always have time to watch the races, not so much on Saturday, but on Sunday, because we do the Blue Crew in the morning, and then the rest of the day of Motocross of Nation last year, I had the privilege to see, is this Jet Lawrence really the shit on a motocross bike? And if I take the first couple of laps, I thought like he's fairly good, but then after 10 minutes, that kid just kicked in, and he was definitely living up to what you have heard. And wow, he was just picking off the riders one by one, like he already. It was kind of a rewind of what will happen. You can see that the tape has already been played. He kind of knew how things would play, and that was fascinating in my point of view when I watched him ride. The way that he set up the pass, and let's be honest, like Ernée is not the best track to pass on, because it even if it looks like a big track, when you're actually on the track, there's not a lot of places where you can actually switch lines and do things. And he just made it after 10 minutes when he really got started warming up. He just made it look so easy, and I was very surprised at that. And it was actually a kind of a life experience standing there and seeing, of course, also being France when MXoN really did some incredible racing, and hearing the crowd, it was also something that I will probably remember to the rest of my days. You have some epic moments in your life, and this was definitely one of them. To see him ride like that, it was just amazing. So he's obviously going to be really good. I'm sure that Prado, being a world champion and coming in with that confidence from the way that he rode last weekend, this weekend just passed, he's going to come in with a lot of confidence, and of course he wants to win. The Spanish team, in my opinion, maybe doesn't have the team to be a top contender, but you never know. That's the great thing about racing, you never know. But the US, with Tomac coming in, and if he can bring that beast mode that he definitely is capable of. And Ken Roxon is going to be a surprise, a little bit like last year when he whole started, I think, the second moto and was leading for some laps. So yeah, there's going to be a lot of great riders there. It's always there's nothing more satisfying than seeing the best riders ride in the world, and especially because when you have been a rider and you know how difficult it is, and then seeing those the best riders fighting against each other, it's something that I really enjoy to watch, and the great atmosphere. There's a couple of places in the world that can host a MXoN, a Motocross of Nation, and that's France is one of them. We saw that last year with over 100,000 people there. It was just unbelievable. And then UK, it's Medley. It's a very interesting track. It's good for the spectators to have a look. So a lot of people are going to be there. And then of course, like I never actually been to the US for Motocross of Nation, but they're definitely also in Germany. I think those are the four or five countries in the world that can really host a Motocross of Nation, and they have the capacity to actually make it great. So it's going to be an interesting weekend. I think I would have loved to see Hayden Deacon race in live, but obviously that didn't happen because of his hand and the operation. But it's going to be a great weekend. It's going to be some incredible racing, and it's going to be interesting. Who do you think is going to win?
Being Australian, mate, I'd like to think the Aussies would get it done with the Lawrence brothers and Webster, obviously all on essentially factory HRC bikes. Obviously, Australia's never won it before, mate, but it's going to be such a challenge. Obviously, you got to get that result from Webster, and he's, following Australian motocross too. He won the title on the last day. He had a hand injury, and he managed to just get the job done, and he finished level on points with Jed Beaton, but he won because he had more wins. So he's sort of, he's recovering from that, and then he's obviously been in the prep in Florida with the Lawrence brothers, with the team working on the bike and just getting dialed and getting comfortable back on that 250. So he's obviously a 250 champ in Australia, so he's an elite rider in his own
Yeah.
right. So you saw what he did in America when he came over for those couple of rounds. Got the whole shot in one of them, battling it in the top 10 well and truly. So it'd be really good to see how he does. It's kind of hard to go past France and Netherlands as well. Obviously, France have the same team. You saw what they did last year, mate. Obviously, Renault has had his issues with injuries this year. Febvre's had his ups and downs. Vial's had a really good year, won that Supercross title, and they're going to be so hard to beat. And the thing with Netherlands, mate, and you can talk on this after I'm finished, I guess, is the starts for them. Obviously, Hurling's had his issues with starts. De Wolf had his issues with starts on the 250 especially, and then obviously Koldenoff came in for Verlanderen. Obviously, you've done a lot of work with Verlanderen this year as well, so it would have been awesome to see him sort of, there, but obviously that injury stopped him. He was having a great year in MXGP, mate, so it's going to be so interesting, but I think there's kind of your top three, and USA obviously in there as well, but yeah, Germany, Roxen, Nagel, Langenfelder, that's a really good team, so it's going to be so fascinating to see how it plays out, mate. But I guess, what are some of the keys to success for you, mate, and who's your favourite?
First of all, Motocross of Nation, from my own point of view, I cannot remember how many I did. I probably did 7 or 8 of Motocross of Nations. And obviously, I was never in a position to, we were just happy if we can get into the A final. so, it's never really been an event for me where I wanted to go, take huge risk for the team. Of course, I took risk that I thought it was needed to do the best what I could for myself. I had a couple of moments in my career with especially with qualifying. In 1998, we did Fox Hill Motocross of Nation, and there was the first year that Ricky Carmichael came over, and he was just won the Supercross and the outdoor 125, AMA championship, and that year in '98 we had the World Championship in Fox Hill as well, and I had my first pole position in the 125. So I kind of knew that I could ride quite well around that track. The bike worked really good there. But with those up and down hills, with being on pretty much a stock Suzuki with a little bit modified, and I probably knew that I was going to get my challenge going up the steep hills, with being 78 kilos compared to Carmichael that was on a pro circuit and probably a lot lighter than me. So we had a pretty good scrap on the first couple of laps, and and he actually passed me going up that hill, and I jumped past him going down the hill, and unfortunately I clipped his front wheel in the in the corner after, and he fell down like I think it was on the second lap, and got quickly back up again. And I just knew that, okay, now it's time to go, and you don't look back now, because I could just hear the crowd, and I could hear him coming closer and closer, because I was, riding for a British team, the actually British rider was behind me. So I just gave everything, and actually won that qualifying race on Saturday, and was probably the first European rider to beat Ricky Carmichael. So that was kind of my highlight of my Motocross of Nation days, and later got to fight a little bit with him in Ernée in the qualifying race on Saturday when I was riding with factory Yamaha. So yeah, I had some up and downs in Motocross of Nation. My last Motocross of Nation I did 2006 in Medley, where we didn't unfortunately qualify for the A final, but finished second in the B final. So I think I won or finished second in that final there. But probably one of the few races where I thought, I'm actually glad that I'm not racing, because it was Stefan Everts' last race of his career. It was supposed to be Carmichael's last race of the year, but he got injured a couple of weeks before. Sorry. And they sent James Stewart instead. So now there was James Bubba Stewart against, Stefan Everts, which was probably one of the most legendary and incredible epic races that I've ever seen in my life. When Stefan Everts passed James Stewart on the outside, standing up in those deep rut off camber, and it just made him look like an amateur, and just pulled away. and hearing the crowd and everything behind Stefan there, and yeah, it was amazing. And like I said, for myself, it was my last race at Motocross of Nations. So I'm really looking forward to go there and race. And I don't have any favorites. I think always, as a former rider, I let the best man win, and that's how I see it. But this definitely gonna be interesting, because in every team, and that was the same last year, only France probably didn't have a weak link. You cannot say MX2, MX Open, MXGP, all riders was fucking capable of even winning a world championship, or there was three world champions. So MX2 world champion, MXGP world champion Romain Febvre, and MX2 world champion Maxime Renault. So when you have three world champions, there's not really a weak link. But Australia had, two good, and I don't remember the third rod, but it was a little bit weaker link compared to the Lawrence brothers, because they are so incredible good, So, and the same with Germany. Roxen did an incredible race. I don't know who was the second and third rider, but every team pretty much have like a weak link, and that's why I, think France, of course, have a great opportunity. Maxime have to ride up to his best capability, but we know what that kid is capable of for sure. He was not riding that well in the weekend, and he came over to me because I said to him, I drove all the way from where I lived to see you ride live this year, because I haven't seen it. And I also said to him, you didn't actually impress me this weekend. And he said, I'm really embarrassed. So, and that's the way he is. That guy, you don't have to tell him when he does something bad, because he is fucking pounding himself and into the weekend to perform better next time. And he's actually literally embarrassed of when he does something wrong. It's not like he's just whatever. He rides with so much heart, that kid, that he wants to win more than he wants to breathe almost. It's amazing. So I think he's definitely gonna be training with Team France today. They are in Ernay today, or Saint-Gantely, one of those two, and train with the French team, and they're gonna be that tomorrow as well. And he'll be there. I'm sure he will bring the beast. That is for sure, because that's what he's capable of. That kid is just unreal. I cycle a little bit, like we spoke on previous podcasts. I cycled with him in the winter in Calpe a little bit, together with Calvin and him, and he's unreal. I think I can consider myself, even if I'm getting almost 50 years next year. So I am getting older. I realize that, but I feel I'm in pretty good shape, and I have some good legs to cycle. And he is just like on a level that I've not seen with my own eyes before. So he's unbelievable. He's so strong, that kid, So I definitely know he's gonna bring something good for the weekend.
Absolutely, so mate. He's a weapon, isn't he? Him and Tomac will hit the beast mode, and obviously Renault want to impress you, if nothing else, mate.
I hope so. Or at least impress himself. That's the most important, But I think it's going to be a great weekend, and I just hope, if you can hope for anything, you can just hope for a little bit good weather, or at least not a lot of rain. I have not even looked at the weather forecast because I don't want to. And we all know that even if we look at the weather forecast, it doesn't matter, because it can change so quickly anyway. But I'm sure it's going to be an epic Motocross of Nations, no matter what, and the British fans are going to make it count. So, and I'm sure the riders are going to do that as well. So looking forward to it, and mostly also looking forward to work with the Blue Crew again. It's an amazing event for those small kids, 65, 85, and 125, coming to ride, and ride in front of hundred thousands of fans. It must be amazing to be 7, 8, 9, 10, 16 years old, riding and racing in front of that big of a crowd. So I'm really excited. There's a lot of parents there, you have to control, and there's a lot of questions, but to be honest with you, it's all worth it when everyone is having a good weekend, and the best will win anyway.